Now this is probably the most common factorization you're going to do over the next 3 years. And that's what we call factorising trinomials. Basically, a trinomial is going to be a quadratic function. So it's anything that's going to be in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. It's a trinomial, 1, 2, 3 terms. So that's where the tri comes from. Okay, because basically it comes from the idea that it's a polynomial. And a polynomial is anything that's basically in the form with x to the power of n, and the powers of n are whole numbers and keep going down until the powers are 0, and it's got numbers out the front of it. So a trinomial has 3 terms. Polynomial has many terms. So we want to factorize things like this. So there's a few little techniques we can use to do this, but it's going to be something you're going to see very often. What we want to do is first off is work with ones where the term in front of x squared is 1, and these are what we call monic. So if it's something just in the form where it's x squared plus 3x plus 2, say, this would be what we call a monic polynomial, because its highest power has a term of 1 in front. It's what we call the leading coefficient, because it's the leading term would be 1x squared, because it's got the highest power. It's of degree 2. So, and it's monic there because it's power of 1. It's got a value of 1. If there's any other number, it's non-monic. They're a little bit harder. We'll do them in another video. But all the ones here are going to be in this form. So the idea is, if we, and again we've seen this form before, so it shouldn't be too scary for us, because we realize that when we had got something like this occurred when we expanded 2 brackets. So we had situations where we had 2 brackets, maybe x plus 4, x plus 2, and we expand this bracket and say, well, x times x would be x squared. We get 4 times x, 2 times the x there, and then 2 times the 4 gave us 8, and that come down to x squared plus 6x plus 8. So we've had all these situations where we've had our brackets and we've come down to our expanded form. What we want to do is go backwards now, because if we factorize this, obviously that would be its factorization, come down to those 2 brackets. And that's what we want to do here. We want to come down to this one where we've got 2 brackets. It's going to have an x there and an x there. And what we've got to do is work out, well, what numbers are going to go with it. So the key is to be able to look at these ones here and be able to do that. Now, we know it's going to be x and x, because x times x would give us x squared. Nothing else in the bracket there would give us an x squared, because it's going to be plus some number there. Now, if you have a look at when we did this expansion, the 2 numbers that we multiplied there gave us the end term. So 8. So 2 times 4 gave us 8. And then you might see another relationship, that the 2 numbers there added to give us this number there, which was 6. Which leaves us to go, well, what 2 numbers will multiply to give you 9, but add to give you 6? So that's the little trick you've got to come up with, because there's combinations that multiply to give you 9. 3 times 3 gives you 9, and 1 times 9 gives you 9. But do any of those combinations add to give you positive 6? Yes, they do. That would be plus 3 there and plus 3 there. So there's your factorization. That can actually come down to x plus 3 all squared, if we want to write that. It doesn't really matter if we write it that way or that way. But that's how we come down to getting these numbers. What are the numbers that multiply to give you 9, but add to give you 6? There. So that's how we go about finding and factorizing these ones. So let's have a look at another example. Y squared minus 4y plus 4. Well, what 2 numbers are going to multiply to give us 4, positive 4, but add to give us minus 4? Now, hopefully in your mind you've gone, wait on, if 2 numbers are multiplying to give us negatives, but multiply to give us a positive, then those 2 numbers must be negative to start off with. So I'm going to have x minus something there and x minus something there, because the 2 numbers will multiply to give us a positive 4. So it's either going to be 2 positives or 2 negatives. if that's going to be a positive there. And then, but it's going to be negatives because they add to give us minus 4. And what two numbers multiply to give us positive 4? Add to give us minus 4. Well, your combinations for positive 4 would be 1 and 4, or minus 2 and minus 2. So minus 1, minus 4, minus 2, minus 2. Well, only one of those combinations gives us minus 4, and that is the minus 2 there and minus 2 there. Nicely, this one's worked out as a perfect square as well. That's just luck of the draw with the question. What about the next one? Well, let's have a look. The first thing you should do, hey, let's get a common factor, because 2, 16, 32. So we've got 2, we've got an x squared plus 8x. We'll get rid of that. Undo that one. So we'll undo what we just did. We've got an 8x, and we've got 16. So again, some of you might even pick this up already and go, oh, wait on, it's very similar to what we've done before. We've got x there, x there. What two numbers multiply to give you 16? Add to give you 8. Well, that works out to 4 and 4 again. So yeah, it comes down to a nice perfect square. They don't always work out that nicely. They don't always come down to nice brackets. When we factorise, it will, but they're not always that pretty. So we have a look at this one. This time, what two numbers are going to multiply? Because again, we're going to be with x, and we've got x there. We've got what two numbers multiply to give us 32, but add to give us 12. Now, 32 is a little bit harder now, because we're looking at the factors of 32. Well, we're looking at 1, 2, 3. Oh, sorry, no, 1, 2, 4. We've got 8. We've got 16. We've got 32. So we've got a few combinations there. But again, if we realise that we've got to get that adding the 12, which two ones? So 1 and 32, if they're together, will add to give us 33. 16 and 2 add to give us 18. 4 and 12. 4 and 8 and 4 add to give us 12. So it'll be 8. X plus 4. X plus 8. How do we know we're right? Expand it out. X times x, x times 8. 4 times, add the 4 times x, and then add the 4 times 8. Expand out, you should come back to that. That's the nice thing about being able to check if you're correct. This time, a little bit harder, because we've got minus 28 and a minus 3. So hopefully, again, we're looking and going, well, if it's going to multiply to give you a negative, one's going to be positive, one's going to be negative. So we've got that situation. So, what two numbers multiply to give us 28? So, our combinations, 1 and 28 obviously. We've got 4 and we've got 7. We will have 2 and we'll have 14. And so there's our factors of 28. Now, obviously it's nicer if these ones, if the end number was a prime number. Makes life easier, but the higher it is and the more factors it have, the harder it is, because we've got to pick out combinations there. One's going to be positive, one's going to be negative. So which two, when we make one negative and one positive, will give us a negative 3? Now, for it to be negative there too, if we got a positive number and a negative number, obviously the larger one with all these ones should be the negative, because if we're going to have 1 minus 28 will give us a negative, but 28 minus 1 will give you a positive. 4 minus 7 gives you a negative, but 7 minus 4 gives you a positive. So, and same with the 2 and the 14. So when you see that being negative there, you know one's positive, one's negative. Have a look at that sign there. And then the larger number of the two, regardless of the sign, is going to be the negative one out of those. So hopefully we've looked at that and went, yeah, well, that's pretty easy. That's 4 and 7. And we should be able to pick it pretty easily there, that once we've got our factors and compare them, we can see that we can get different combinations. But once we've looked at it and got them written out, it's easy to see that, well, minus 3 comes, it's not going to come from the 2 and the 14 or 128, it's the 4 and the 7. And when you've got a large number there, but a small number here, often look for the ones that are closest to the middle, ones that are closer to each other in size, because you're doing a subtraction, because the difference is going to be small between them, but the product large in that regard. So that's sort of something to look for, because again, there's lots of combinations you can pick from, and you want to get better at picking them first go. Not always going to happen. Not always going to be the way you go about it. It's just sometimes it's a guess and check type situation. The more you do, the better you get it. It's amazing how good your guesses can get. So because you've practiced and you know what you're doing. So again, looking at this one, two numbers that multiply to give us 45, but add to give us positive 4. So again, because minus 45, one's going to be negative, one's going to be positive, because two numbers there will multiply to give us a negative. Doesn't really matter where you put your brackets. But again, you've got a positive 4. So the larger number overall will be positive. So the factors, 1 and 45, easy. 5 and 9. And we've got 3 and 15. So there's our factors. I think they're all of them. So again, what we're looking for is a difference when we have this one of positive 4. Which one of them gives us a difference of positive 4? And that would be the 5 and the 9. The 9 is going to be positive. The 5 is going to be the negative. And we can write those in. Again, we could check 9x minus 5x gives us positive 4x when we expand it out. Minus 5 times 9 minus 45. So that works out nicely for us. So it gives us what we need in that regard. Okay, again, expand it out. If you're not sure if you got it to it right, expand it out, and you should get back to that expression. So again, this one, looking at this one, you're looking at the numbers there and go, oh, it's a big product with a small difference there between them. So we're looking at two numbers that multiply to give you 99, and 99 is not too bad because there's not too many factors of it, even though it's a large number. And one's going to be positive, one's going to be negative. So the factors, obviously 1 and 99. And then we've got 333. We've got just 9 and 11 then. I don't think we have any factors. I don't think 6 goes into it. So looking at that, which two of those will give us a difference of minus 2 when we make one minus one negative? Obviously these are going to be the negatives because it's a negative 2. The larger one's going to be negative, so obviously it'll be a minus 11 plus 9. So that would give us a difference of minus 30 minus 98. So that's going to be a positive 9 there, a minus 11. So there's how we factorize trinomials when we have a monic situation there. Have a look at the, don't just stay with this video. Like, what I can encourage you to do is have a look at the textbook, read through more examples of this. I will, on Edmodo, I will put a PowerPoint on this as well for you to have a look. Ask questions. This is not an easy concept at times. This can be hard. Again, because the more you see of these, the more you can get some really difficult numbers in here to try and factorize. But the idea is to practice. The more you practice, the better you're going to be. And you're going to do lots and lots and lots of these as you go through the next 3 years of year 10, 11 and 12.